What's up, everyone? This is Dan from Rebellious Noise, and I am here again with Scott, Rob, and Lucas. As you guys may have seen, we did the Money in the Bank predictions. We are now here after the event to do our review of Money in the Bank. So, let's have a little look at what happened at Money in the Bank, boys. So, there's some little bits of news that are coming out of Money in the Bank. Some you may know, some that you may not necessarily know. So the first piece, it actually comes from Paul Davis from WrestlingNews.co, and basically just giving us a few backstage notes. So the Braun Strowman Bray Wyatt match was pre-taped. Did you know that?
I thought it might. In my notes, I wrote, "Where's that live message in the corner gone?" So I thought it might be.
The reason it was pre-taped was actually because they didn't want one of the puppeteers for Bray Wyatt's puppets to be accidentally shown on camera.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And apparently at the last word as well, that feud will be continuing.
Yeah, it's going to be a face-to-face match.
Yeah.
So then the same guy has also explained the situation with using Vince's office. Basically, a writer suggested having the wrestlers fight in Vince's office, but he wasn't on board with having the office trashed. He didn't want the dinosaur bones on the wall destroyed.
He protects all those, isn't he?
Got a few notes about that later anyway.
He's a nice present from Paul. So, and the final thing from that guy was essentially it was the shortest WWE pay-per-view in 14 years.
Wow. That time frame makes sense, yeah, when I was thinking, because I remember when it went 3 hours, it was kind of a big deal.
Can anyone guess what the previous one was?
14
5 bonus
years.
points.
Oh, 14 years.
I think I know which one it is.
Go for it.
Is it ECW December to Dismember?
It is indeed.
That makes sense, yeah.
Coming in at 2 hours 14 minutes, and this was 2 hours
really
24.
Short, wasn't it? It's really short because all the kind of
matches
were about 5 minutes long, weren't they?
Yeah.
Match. Bloody hell.
But apparently, though, it was Vince's decision to keep it short, and the belief is that upcoming shows will be shorter until fans are able to be in attendance again, which makes sense, really.
Great. That's great news.
Yeah, that's great.
That and the 2-night Mania have made a big difference to my life, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then just one final thing was there was an interview from Otis with Digital Spy, which was actually before Money in the Bank. Basically, he commented on what he was going to do if he won Money in the Bank. And I won't do the voice, but he said, if I get the briefcase, we're challenging for the tag team titles. I don't think there's a rule on what title we can challenge for. So we're going to challenge for the tag titles, cash it in, and that's what's going to happen if I can get up at the ladder.
Interesting. All right.
Not that he needed to, anyway.
Okay.
So shall we get into it? Talk wrestling, boys?
Yeah, let's go.
Go for it.
So we are going to kick off on the kickoff show with Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro. Now, looking back, we predicted... Oh, wait, no one, because the match wasn't announced. So, does Vince know the Bar are not together anymore? Don't know why. Jeff's meant to be feuding with
Yeah,
Sheamus.
what's all that about? Yeah.
That confused me as well. Although they did mention that during the match that Cesaro and Sheamus are still on the same page. They are good friends still. So is that a way of teasing that they're going to refresh the Bar and bring them back?
I think they should.
Well, you think they got rid of like the Revival, the OC, and all them, so
They need a tag team to
it makes
push,
sense.
you know.
And obviously with the Usos out, they're over on SmackDown, so they could fill in where, with that. So
because I'm assuming that they stopped, so they abandoned the Cesaro, Shinsuke, Zayn thing at the moment, while Zayn's obviously staying at home, isn't he?
Yeah, well, they teased a bit with Corbin on SmackDown, but
it hasn't really been mentioned. So perhaps, potentially. I was a fan of this match, though, I must admit. I was happy for a pre-show match to be given some time. Then there was criticism given at the WrestleMania weekend that they only gave the pre-show matches 6 or 7 minutes apiece when you got an hour of someone just talking in the studio.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see Jeff. Yeah, it was nice to see Jeff back, and nice to see Cesaro still somewhat look good despite the loss, I guess. But we are at the stage now. Cesaro's probably had his back to the mat more times than some of us have had hot meals, you know. So
thing is, though, he's a safe pair of hands to go in there, you know, especially Jeff, he's just coming back and everything like that. So
I feel like it could have been like when I saw the length of the show, when I realised, okay, it's bedtime. I was like, wait, they could have bumped that to the main card.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, and they could have just scrapped off the pre-show,
Yeah, or just had the pre-show just talking and the countdown like they did anyway, the top 10 moments. But yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would have said, as you were saying, I put it on the main show, would have swapped it with the R-Truth segment. It was a bit like it wasn't really necessary. Like it was there just to. I'm not. I don't want to share too much, but literally that was my toilet break. Like I missed everything that happened. Come back and I was like, oh, okay, that was not as important as I expected. So, but yeah, putting that on the main show wouldn't have been an issue, and putting Jeff and Cesaro on the main show would have been a better move at least.
Yeah.
So that's it for the pre-show.
Yeah.
So we now move on to the main show. Upset again by the lack of pyro, but needs must and all that. So we kick off with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, the Fatal 4-Way match between The New Day, Miz and Morrison, Forgotten Sons, and Lucha House Party. Now, just for housekeeping, I've got down here who we all picked. It was a clean sweep for New Day for all of us, and they didn't disappoint. So, tick, 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 1 point each.
Nice.
We're all on the board. There we go. So, what did you think?
I think right decision, like I said on the predictions and preview episode, that I want to see Miz and Morrison with the titles, but they shouldn't have took them off them. And seeing as they did, then you might as well keep them on the New Day for a bit because, they're a great team, but 8 times already, and I can't see the New Day disbanding anytime soon. So who knows how high that number is going to get, especially with, the several tag titles they've had in the company, Raw, SmackDown, WWE, whatever. A note I wanted to make about, before, not so much about the match, was just Miz and Morrison being color coordinated. Love it when a tag team do that. So nice green gear there. And Morrison, I think he really impressed in this. He worked really well with the New Day members.
Lucha House Party as well.
Lucha House Party.
They were incredible.
Obviously, they had the Spanish Fly into the rest of the wrestlers, which was amazing. The only awkwardness I noticed, because I think these things show up more because there's no crowd there, but there was a spot where Morrison kind of hesitated. I think it was when Lince Dorado was coming towards him for like a sunset flip powerbomb type move or something like that, and he hesitated, and then you had Kofi kind of getting involved, and it was a bit awkward. And then Kofi seemed to, I wouldn't say botch, but kind of to do two sloppy moves in a row. And I felt like maybe it was a bit of momentum kind of just had been lost. And I think that's easier to happen without a crowd. I think there's so much focus on, oh my gosh, everybody's watching us. The crowd usually kind of take away some of that heat, but so I had a bit of sympathy for him there. But all things considered, I thought this was a really good match. And like I said, highlight for me was John Morrison and the combination of guys he could work with.
Yeah, I think ultimately, your point about that is, remember, they don't have live events at the moment, which obviously was a big deal and a big way of kind of having dress rehearsals for some of these bigger matches. And I think, obviously, with this, you've got the New Day and Miz and Morrison, very experienced, obviously, main roster competitors. And obviously, Forgotten Sons just come up from NXT. Lucha House Party just come back, basically, from disappearing acts. And I think there was a nice mix of tag teams here. And I guess, if this was, booked to happen maybe 3 or 4 months ago, with obviously having potential to have the Revival in there and the Usos, it would have been a better match. And I think we are maybe seeing the beginning part of a rebirth, the SmackDown Tag Division. And so I do think of what we're saying about Cesaro and Sheamus getting back together. It might actually be quite a good time just to get the reps in with people like Lucha House Party, like Forgotten Sons, etc. Because those were the weaker parts of the match. I know Kofi did make some slip-ups, which is very weird for Kofi. The New Day, obviously, they're over as hell, as we all know. And their fan base isn't going to take that away from that match. They will take away the fact that, unfortunately, it did look a bit like Forgotten Sons. Didn't really keep up as much, I feel, with the New Day and Miz and Morrison. But there's some absolute star-making moments in that, to be fair. Definitely from Morrison. He's definitely one to watch, I think, from a tag perspective and from a single perspective going forward.
Yeah,
though, you think if they were to, like, we've spoken about it numerous times, like, I know me and Scott definitely have, like, combining the tag division, just having one tag division, one set of tag belts, you know, they've got some they have got some really talented tag teams. And, you know, I do honestly feel that, you know, if they did combine them, you know, you think something like the Street Profits versus the New Day, that could work pretty well. You know, throw the Viking Raiders in there as well, right? You know, I know obviously they've, you know, done a lot of stuff with some of the teams in NXT and stuff, but yeah, I think by the end of this year they need to at least be looking at combining the tag division, have one set of tag straps, and that'll be a lot better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, I mean, I really agree with combining them. The issue is they've done that with the women's tag division. Not that it's as strong, but there's no one seems to care about that title, like them two titles anymore. They're kind of, Bliss and Elektra have got them, but it's not as competitive. But I guess with the males, there's so much more that it might add like another level of you know, like competitiveness for the whole locker room, especially with the titles. I mean, you can bring more in. So there's that to it, but then people then get lost in the shuffle with only one set of titles.
Yeah, I mean, because you think, like, when you think back when they used to have, like, they had the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian were like the three main ones, and then people would say, okay, you throw in like the APA, right, the Censor, that kind of thing. So it's like, you know, you've got all the teams that are on like the peripheries of it, and, you know, give like one of the lesser teams, so to speak, like a run for a few months, and then, you know, it makes it then more of a big deal when you get, okay, so you could get these kind of matches where they mean something because it's for like a number one contendership, you know, and you think, okay, so you win this, you could face the champs at SummerSlam. It will just elevate them. And it's just, I want to see them. I want to see the older World Tag Team title belts back as well.
I love those belts.
They are like my favorite tag belts.
I think the only problem you're going to have is if WWE still aren't hiring tag teams, you can have 1 belt, 2 belts, 3 belts, 4 belts. You're still going to get the same result. And I think if they were to merge them now, it would most likely stay on the New Day, Usos, potentially Viking Raiders. It would stay amongst a small group of teams. Whereas now, which is why I'm happy they did a match with obviously different tag teams, there's a chance that other tag teams get involved. So I guess there's plus some. There's positives and negatives to both. And I felt as well when they did it before, when they merged the tag belts before in about 2008, I think it was 2008, 2009, with the original Colognes, you know, Primo and Carlito.
Oh, was that when they then became the penny tag belts?
Yeah, because they had two sets, didn't they?
Oh,
they had 2 belts for a while, and then they obviously made one.
Show Miz and all that. Generation.
But I don't know, it just felt a bit like then they went to having to just, like I say, create kind of big name tag teams. You had a lot of that going on. Like you had Edge and Jericho becoming a tag team because they wanted to become a tag team. Then they had the belts, and you had obviously DX came back, won the belts, and they felt a bit like they weren't putting as much effort on the tag team wrestling because they only had like one set. So perhaps, I don't know, I'm 50-50 on it. I see both sides.
I think a lot of it is wishful thinking on both sides. When things aren't working and there's one set, we think the solution is to have 2, and when there's 2, we think the solution is to have 1. With just straightly put, WWE have been shocking with their tag division for a long time. So, and every time it gets somewhere, you know, Lucas, like you were just saying, you know, this looks like it could be going somewhere, and I hope you're right, but a lot of times it doesn't. And this is the thing, like, I don't think having one set is going to fix it. There's no excuse. All right, they got rid of a few good tag teams recently, but there's a lot on their books. You know, they can make it work with 2 titles, but they just don't. So I just think it's more about putting effort in what they really want to shine a light on. Because I think in this, I actually started to buy into Lucha House Party winning it. And I thought, wow, that'd be decent because they're, you know what, screw it, you know, give them that chance. There's another set of tag titles. If you don't think they're a strong enough tag team to be the main tag team, you've got another set on the other brand anyway. So this is the perfect chance, like you guys were saying, of having those kind of teams on the peripheries and stuff like that. But they just don't seem to want to do it.
Yeah, no. As you said, I really did think that the House Party were going to win it, especially at the point where they were the only ones dominating the ring. And then the Forgotten Sons come in and broke up the tag, which was, I love how they do them false finishes, especially within a tag team, because both of them just scurrying. It's not just one opponent. I really enjoyed it. My only criticism throughout the whole match was there were so many blind tags that I was having to try and remember who was in the match. And, you know, there was points where the two people were in the ring that wasn't even tagged in, and then they got tagged out so they could come in, kind of thing. That was my only issue with the entire match.
We need the indicators around their heads. You know? They put those weird graphics on when they do entrances. I'm sure they can figure it out.
Just like the referee, just like has like a little marker or something. Right, you're legal. You're legal. So yeah, obviously that was won by the New Day. Finish came with a big ending on Grand Metalik. And
did you guys notice that? I don't know if it showed in the background. Michael Cole looked a bit confused. He was looking at Corey Graves, but I don't know if I'm guessing his mic was off and he was saying something. But I thought, for a second, I thought, maybe that wasn't meant to happen. Like, or he seemed shocked. I don't know, just the background of him looking at Corey Graves, like he was shocked.
Yeah, I think potentially, the finish came a bit soon, perhaps, and they weren't ready for it. Potentially, perhaps there was meant to be another move or something afterwards.
Yeah, because it did seem to fizzle out really quick.
Yeah, it just seemed to go, but perhaps they just—I don't know. It did feel. I don't know. It felt like it went to time though. It was about 15 minutes or something. Right? So I guess I don't know what else they really could have done. They had done kind of everything to do, but potentially, there was meant to be a bit more added to it. But yeah, we never know. Mark Cole just makes weird faces sometimes, to be fair, though.
I mean, there was that clip of him being on his phone recently, so who knows?
He's part of his thing. He's in his 50s now as well, so it's ageness for you, I guess, too.
Old people and technology, eh? So we then move on to R-Truth versus MVP. Sorry, there were no predictions for this match.
It's a good job, mate. It's a good job we did it.
I was going to say, I don't know if anyone would have actually predicted the winner of this one, which was Bobby Lashley.
Surprise. Well, do you think with this happening, that because at the moment they're building this thing about MVP having his own stable as such, and they're becoming heel. I read something about Apollo Crews it was on purpose that he got injured, so then he can become heel. I don't know how true that is, but what do you think of it? Do you think it's going to be?
I like
do you think it's going to be something decent?
I think it could be.
Depends who they put in there, really.
As a character, so I think bringing him back was a good decision at the Royal Rumble, and I like what they've done with him since. I did find it weird that he would just suddenly not be involved in this match. It weren't really explained that well, but. Yeah, I mean, Ro, I know you said this was your toilet break, and it was a bit of a cluster at times, but at the same time, I like R-Truth's silliness.
Yeah.
I liked him doing the what's up, I was laughing along at home, I like that, and I liked his interview later on as well, but
we might as well just tie that all into the same thing, really, instead of
calling out Tom Brady, which is funny, the player, that was quite funny and all that, but I just it was a bit sloppy at times, but I'm all right with what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it feels a bit like it was damage limitation for Lashley, I think, because obviously he lost to House of Black at WrestleMania. He really has lost his shine, I think, since kind of returning. And remember at one point when they were flirted at least with giving us Lashley versus Lesnar, and it just seems like that match now. It would just be so unfathomable to imagine it even happening. Like Brock wouldn't even open the envelope or the email. Sorry, the text or whatever. I just think that it just felt a bit like there is something to it, but I'm not too sure what it is. Potentially, we might get some explanation on Raw because MVP was flirting a sort of partnership with Shane Thorne and Brendan Venk, the new tag team on Raw. And potentially, like I say, the Apollo thing I've heard too. And if they are going to add maybe Lashley to it too, because he's saying he don't want Lana coming out with him anymore. So there could be that. So there could be more. So I think I'm going to reserve a kind of judgment on it until I see more. If in a month's time, we're sat here and that was it, and MVP's out the company again, or MVP's just doing VIP lounges every week again, then I'm like, okay, that was probably a waste of time. But if it's led to potentially a start of a stable or something, which I think is needed, MVP is a great mouthpiece. It shouldn't wrestle anymore, but it's a great mouthpiece. And I think people like Brendan Bank, etc., Shane Thorne, I think it'd be needed.
The people that are not as good on the mic would really like benefit, I think, from that. Like, you don't really hear much from Apollo and Lashley and stuff. Like when, for Lashley, you'd think like that voice coming out of like someone of that size as well. It's like,
watch yourself, Dan. But you never know who watches these. With Lashley, like you say, I think he could be a centerpiece of a stable like that, and that could give him his shine back. That could be his route back up. He could have his little cronies around him, helping him get to the top. So I think it would. Yeah, like you say, I think I'll hold judgment on this as well, just in case they do something quite cool with it. One quick note I wanted to mention as well was. Obviously, you said you'd have the night off to MVP. You can go home. I did like R-Truth's little jokey. I appreciate that, Bobby. I'm gonna take a night off too. That was quite funny. Even if the weird slap thing was a bit awkwardly done. But yeah, those little lines from R-Truth. That's why
he's quality. He's quality though. I've got a little fact about this as well. Apparently, R-Truth hasn't won a pay-per-view match in 7 years. Apart from 24/7.
Oh,
yeah.
What?
He's not won a single pay-per-view match since December 2013.
oh yeah.
Right, and he was on a roll back then.
The 24/7 title.
Yeah.
Trading it back. He's not won a single match on pay-per-view since 2013.
Was that like back when he was like US champ? Was it around that time?
I believe so, yeah.
It would have been, just after he turned heel, the little Jimmy. What was the team he had with Miz called? Truth?
Awesome Truth.
Awesome Truth.
Yeah. I mean, I find things like this amazing. You think of him as being he's a face. You think he would have won a pay-per-view match, but no. He's lost on many occasions.
That's crazy.
There we are.
I love stuff like that. Yeah, I love it, yeah.
And there we go. I'm out of a job, mate. I'm stat man normally. So I'm just going to go home now. So
Dan, you watch your back.
I know,
one of the last things I saw before we started recording, I thought, no, it's a nice little fun fact. I didn't think we'd talk about this match that much, but it was about a minute, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think we spoke about more than it went on. Yeah.
So we move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship now. Sorry, Lucas, mate. You picked Tamina for this one. The rest of us all went for a Bayley retention.
Really thought it was her time. It wasn't to be.
Obviously, there is someone that's meaner than her.
Bayley. It seems. I was surprised. Obviously, I told man, so I thought it was time. I thought with no crowd, like I think we spoke about, mainly being the no crowd thing, and it just being that Bayley seems to have had that title forever. I just thought that they might just do it, give it to her, even for a couple of weeks, bounce back to Bayley on SmackDown, or even onto Sasha or whatever. But they just didn't want to do it. It was not that bad a match.
It held well.
Yeah, I think the only thing that really let Tamina down is the fact that she needs to actually learn how to finish doing the Samoan drop. It's just like she gets the first part of it right. It's like, okay, you've got them there. She's like, what do I do now? It's like, well, if you do that, you're doing Cena's. If you do that, you're doing Brock's. Just literally fall backwards.
And you're making a lot of enemies on this, mate. You got Tamina and Lashley coming after you soon.
That's all right.
But I mean, there was some. I mean, I've always found that she kind of wrestled in slow motion to me, bless her. But I don't know. I thought that they did the best they could do. I mean, I know there was a lot of talking in this match. This is another thing that no fans are really kind of exposing more so. Probably why they didn't have Cena in the ring at Mania, because they knew all he does is talk. But yeah, it was a lot of talking in this match. Like not just talking. It's in story talking, but talking is in like
calling spots and stuff.
Calling moves. A lot of that going on, especially when they're on the outside. Bless them.
It's going to be like clothesline, duck.
Yeah, I think for what this match was, they did it quite well. Like you said, the talking kind of impacted it a bit, but I feel like the decision is. I don't know. We all kind of guessed. Lucas Bayley. But, as we mentioned on before, I just think it should be Tamina. And like we mentioned on the tag thing, why? It's another example where you could do it. If you're worried about how strong a champion she could be, you've got a second women's title anyway, and a third if you count the NXT one. So it's a shame because again, when much like the Braun Strowman thing, tell us how you want us to feel about Tamina. Just show us, because you're not given clear signals at all. You're building as a threat, and then she never overcomes anything. So what's the point? I'm not saying she's the best, and like we mentioned on the predictions and preview episode, this whole deserves thing isn't always the case either. But come on, what's the harm in it? What would be the harm in giving it to her for a bit, just to cover your own backs, make her look like a threat, make us believe that next time she could beat that sympathetic babyface? But I'm not going to believe that, because Tamina's never done anything before.
It's just
I agree.
Leading to the essential Sasha. It's going to lead eventually, I think, to the Sasha. Sasha turn. I think that's where it's all going. I think
I'm fine with that.
It'll probably be Sasha that will take it off her. I think.
If
But
that's
do we
the
need
case,
to
then we
see
shouldn't
that
have had
again?
Tamina in that match. I think it should have been someone else. If all this is a stepping stone to the Sasha thing, which I am fine with, and I'm fine with how that's going, and I like how that's playing out. But then it shouldn't have been Tamina. Sorry, Rob.
I mean, I agree, but they don't need the title for that match. Again, it's another one of their matches. It's so big that the title kind of becomes secondary, because it's about their friendship and the rivalry they build and all that sort of stuff. Tamina could have had that, as I said before, as a transitional champion. Let the Bayley and Sasha thing play out, and someone else could have taken it off her. Let her have Tamina have her moment, and then someone else can get their glory moment from that. Do you know what I mean? Because Sasha doesn't need to have that title to be dominating and the way she is. If she's a legit boss, she can do it without a title.
And am I right in thinking as well that that's the only one that Sasha's missing off of her Grand Slam thing as well?
Yeah, because she's won the women's, the Raw.
She won the NXT, she won Raw, and she's won
women's tag.
Women's tag, yeah. It was strange though, because I think they actually alluded to on commentary, I think it was, that Bayley's the first one to hold all the titles plus Money in the Bank. So are they with the women's one now classing Money in the Bank as part of a Grand Slam?
I would say so.
The extra one.
I think it's like a bonus, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah. So,
when we get onto the women's Money in the Bank later, there's actually a bonus, I'd say. But I think the reason why perhaps they did go down this route is because of that match also, as we're going to get onto. I think that the winner of the women's Money in the Bank,
going over
not
to
being
SmackDown,
someone, has maybe influenced this decision. But I was pleased that Tamina's got a shot. I mean, she's about to celebrate 10 years in the company, actually, next couple of weeks, actually. So I think it's a nice, if it is going to be potentially, that's it for now, then I guess it was like a nice kind of way to somewhat wrap up 10 years in the company.
Yeah.
Though
she hasn't done nothing in 10 years.
It's quite symbolic, yeah. Look, you nearly got there again.
Yeah, she's done nothing in 10 years. That's the thing. No disrespect to her. Yes, she's had injuries, and I think the injuries have slowed her down. As you said, she has moved slower. Yeah, but let her have something. I mean, if Alicia Fox can hold a title at some point, Tamina definitely deserves something.
I used to feel the same way about Alicia Fox. She got a bit of a shine for a bit, but it's the same thing. I felt like she was quite underused at times. Because she came from that generation of, much like the Bellas, and credit to Bellas as well, who had to adapt, and all of a sudden women's wrestling was women's wrestling, and you had to kind of step it up. And I think the Bellas and Alicia Fox probably are shining examples of those that transition quite well between the deep generation and wasn't left behind. But obviously things didn't really work out that well with Alicia at times. But going on the whole title thing that you were saying, Rob, about not needing the belt, I think you're right. But at the same time, Sasha's got to have a reason to turn. So it's either she's finally sick of Bayley, or it's I've kept the belt on you because I've been biding my time because I want it. Yep. So it kind of, and at the moment, she kind of needs to be stamped on a bit by Bayley. If it's not the belt, it's got to be a bit more. I know Bayley's kind of done that. I think at Mania they had it a bit more like that, didn't they? Where Bayley, so I can't remember where it was now, but Sasha was kind of wronged, weren't she? I can't remember exactly where it was, but they need more of that than if it's not going to be about the title. So it kind of depends what Sasha's motive for turning actually.
even before the match, though, they kind of did a thing where Charlie Caruso stopped to interview Sasha, and then obviously Bayley answered the questions on her behalf. But then they went out to ringside and they were fine again. So it's like, is there like two story? Is there like a storyline set?
Yeah.
So they hate
they're not sure what's actually been shown. They're like, I'm not sure what recorded footage they're using here, so we'll just do. Yeah. We'll do both.
Do you know? I was actually thinking as well. Like, was the initial plan maybe to blow the whole thing off at SummerSlam, because SummerSlam, when we've looked into it, SummerSlam was actually meant to be in Boston. Now we know Boston is Sasha's hometown, so would that maybe have been like the big blow off if there were going to be fans there, and then they're like, oh, like we haven't got a plan B for like what's going to happen, so. All right, we'll just keep this like plodding along until we know exactly what's going to happen. Because you just think if they're going to turn Sasha face in all of this, then I think if they did a show in Boston, it would probably be, she would get such a reaction, like hometown reaction as well, but the roof would just come off that place. And, people always say like going to that venue as well, the Garden in Boston is like one of those like historic wrestling venues as well. So
yeah,
that's just my couple of pence worth. So yeah, Snoop Dogg.
That makes sense.
Snoop Dogg and Sasha Banks show.
That Just Eat advert he's done, beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet,
I haven't seen it.
Just Eat, yeah, Snoop Dogg. It's just come out. So.
Wait, hang on. How much are we getting paid for Snoop by Just Eat?
I don't care.
Shut up.
It's worth mentioning. It was funny enough. Yeah. If they do want to sponsor the channel,
yeah, we'll take a $3 of chicken wings or something. We don't mind. So so this one ended with a crucifix pin on Tamina. So it was, I guess she got her up for the Samoan drop, and then it was quite. Oh,
the finish annoyed me of that, because Tamina forgot. I don't know what it is with baby faces, but they forget how to win matches when things happen. Now, Tamina, she did her finish, the Samoan and the super kick and the Samoan drop. I can't remember which way around it was, and she could have pinned Bayley, and then Sasha obviously literally went to crawl in the ring, and then she chased Sasha around the ring.
Yeah. It's like you can tell they have a script, basically. You can they're conscious of the script too much, it seems. There's no the whole ring psychology and all that kind of debate. They should be doing more to at least make it look like I should be going for a pin. Like, they're too easily. Yeah, you're right. I think it happens a lot more in the women's matches as well, where they're focused on what the next spot is. And again, we've talked about on this for Rebellious Noise over the years about how it's still gonna take some time for a lot of those things to kind of change, and there's been incredible progression, but there's still some of those old habits, and it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, I mean, that for me, it just kind of soured it a little bit, because I thought it was decent I thought it was a decent match overall, like for Tamina match in 2020, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just felt with that finish, it just made her look a bit like a numpty, and I mean, it's very hard to sort of continue after this, I guess. But perhaps like for her, that was just her kind of icing on the cake kind of thing, and she's disposable, I guess, in the sense of the story that they're going for. Interesting. You mentioned, Rob. You mentioned about SummerSlam. Yeah. It's just getting to the point now where I don't know whether they're still thinking like. Depends who I think Vince is definitely wanting to obviously to run events as soon as possible with fans, but it just seems as we're going on and on that might not happen, and so it's a case of I don't know how many things they're going to just end up kind of going, we just do it when we want to do it now, rather than obviously saving for potentially SummerSlam or Survivor Series because it's going to be in X city, Y city, or whatever. But yeah, that point comes up later on as well. Hence why I think what we did with the Money in the Bank matches. But yeah, that's for.
Cool. So there we have it for the SmackDown Women's title side of things. Should we move on to what you'd say is technically a SmackDown main event, which was the Universal title, or the Blue Universal title, as it's commonly known, and that was Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt, not The Fiend, as we alluded to. Obviously, we all picked Big Braun to retain here. I think it would have been obviously a different matter if it was The Fiend. You could have been like possibly. But I think it was I thought it was a decent match. So
yeah, I mean, I think like you said earlier with the whole thing about like this feud continuing, I think it's because of that. It's a good way to have not used the Fiend. This can grow now. I think it was executed quite well. This I did feel like it suffered a bit without the audience. The whole mask thing, I liked it, but I think it suffered without having a crowd there. The reactions.
Yeah.
Like, it was obvious what
I think
it was to do, but
the only thing is they wouldn't be able to do like any of the puppet stuff, I guess, if they didn't have the crowd there. So it's kind of like they're using that to their advantage, kind of thing. It's like when they did the Wyatt thing with Cena on, I think it was on SmackDown, where he appeared on the
up in the corner. I think it just hurt it a little bit for those kind of like moments. Like I said, we all knew Bray wasn't kind of turning him back, but it's nice to have that little bit of fun in these storylines. I like what they're doing. I like the history. I love when they go back to history in storylines and character building. And it was good for Braun because, like we've all alluded to, obviously he wasn't gonna be winning the title at Mania. He did, and they're thankfully doing the right thing with it. I think finally, like you said in the last episode, Dan, he's making the best out of the situation, and I think it's giving him that kind of depth to his character, and he's not feeling like a transitional champion anymore. This is giving it a bit more credit, because I was thinking watching it, well, they probably would have been Reigns. Does that mean Reigns would have gone against Bray because Bray lost to Goldberg? Would this have been Bray and Reigns? So are we therefore, is this the point where Bray gets it back and, Braun's done his job? But thankfully it wasn't, and they didn't hot potato the title, and I thought it was quite good. And Braun's rant at the end, one thing I do like about this kind of new setup is that they can be a bit more character based to the camera and not need a mic and stuff. But Braun's rant at the end of like, you didn't make me, like I thought that was really well done.
And apparently it was when he took the mask off and stamped on it. Apparently, from what I was hearing, the initial plan was that he was going to actually power slam Bray onto the mask. But if you notice, as he was doing the move, as he was setting him up for it, he actually kicked it accidentally with his foot. So apparently that was meant to be the finish, was he was going to do it onto the mask as like one last exclamation point on it kind of thing.
Because it looked like that because he was setting up to pick him up, and I was like, oh, he's going on it. And I thought he slipped on the mask, like he did, and then that's why. Because you flew across the ring.
So, but you can hardly go like, hang on, mate, can you just stop filming that bit? I'm just going to go and pick it up and put it back in the middle. Right, come
But then you're saying it was pre-recorded, though. They could have obviously fixed that.
Yeah, they could have. They could have just said, go and do it again. But
yeah, I mean, in terms of your point, Scott, I think like when it comes to the whole Goldberg being inserted in this was just a side film. Like if you're talking about, if you think Star Wars, it's like the Rogue One. It exists in its own canon, and the canons exist together, but it's not really part of it. And so I think it does seem very much that they're happy to that's happened, and now it's like they are getting to a story that they perhaps did want to do anyway. Potentially not with the Universal title, I guess, but it does seem that very much we are just back to how SmackDown should be at the top. I really like this match. I think from a production standpoint, like we're saying, the use of the puppets and the use of the some of the techniques that went into it towards the end were really good. And I think as well that it was actually quite good in-ring action for these two. I think obviously, Bray as the kind of Mr. Rogers Bray, he's happy to kind of take these really disgusting looking bumps. Like I think there's one moment when Braun sent him into the it's still a turnbuckle to me, even though it's got the LED boards over it. But he sent him into it, and Bray went flying. And you're just like, this is a 300-pound man who's
and he was
just flying his head first. He's got a kid, isn't he?
On that, he was making Braun look really good, and he was making him look like a monster because a lot of times, like we've said before, Braun will throw over a truck and then he'll get pinned by someone that shouldn't be pinning him, But I think Bray was a good balance because it didn't hurt Bray because he wasn't the Fiend, and Bray kind of felt more like a mixture of the old Bray, which is what we needed because of the story. And like you say, they probably did plan on having this eventually, and it's happening now and it's for the title, so that kind of gives it a bit more strength as well. But yeah, I think it did well for everyone involved. There's only 2 people involved, but you know, both guys involved. It did make me think of Harper and Rowan. That was a bit weird.
I think it's one of them where if they were around, it's like, would it have fitted in well with it or not really? It's one of them where I think it doesn't need them. And, you know, am I right in thinking as well now that Bray has actually held the Universal title longer than he held the IC title for?
I don't
You mean
know.
the WWE Championship?
No, when he won the Intercontinental title.
I don't
Right.
know.
He beat Nakamura for it.
Oh, you mean Braun?
Oh, Braun.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Did I say
Bray.
Braun or did I say Bray?
Yeah.
Did I say Bray?
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, when's he ever won that championship? That's never existed. He won the WWE Championship.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
He has now held the Universal title longer than he held that. But didn't he win the WWE Championship at Chamber and lost it at Main, didn't he? I think, doesn't it? Because it was that weird phase where he beat Cena in the Chamber, didn't he? Obviously, Cena beat AJ.
Did he lose it to? Did he lose to
Orton?
Was it at Main?
Yeah,
No,
with the match with the
yeah.
projected images
Oh,
on the canvas.
Oh, yeah.
And then Orton lost to Jinder Mahal.
Wow.
Really weird transition.
So isn't this the
Yeah.
second time that this is the second time that the Wyatt family have fought for a main title then, right? Because if it happened with Bray and Orton and then it's happened with Braun and Bray, then that's 4 members of the Wyatt family that have
Technically,
essentially the family.
Yeah.
And then you've got and then you've got the Wyatt family versus the Shield over on AEW. So
It's very odd.
there you go.
But yeah, and I enjoyed the match, and I think obviously we're going to get the Fiend next. It looks like, and I'm there for it. You know, I know there was some mixed kind of opinions on this, but I think it's the right direction to go into. Because they're the 2 top guys in SmackDown, unless you're going to until obviously Reigns returns. But yeah, I think it's the right thing to do.
Think so. And so then on that, let's move on now to the Raw side of things and the WWE Championship, which was friend of the show, Drew McIntyre, the WWE Champion, taking on the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, complete with new entrance music.
Yeah, I was quite shocked by that, but I'm all for
No more burn it down.
Yeah, because when he brings it back, it's going to be a moment.
Pop.
So I'm excited for that. And I think it fits his character. As much as I enjoy the Seth entrance that he usually has, this makes sense as well. And I think this whole match was played out quite well. I started to feel it was going a bit long but again, I think that's because there was no crowd there. But what they did themselves was good. They were,
Two solid hands, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing, like, most of all, it was all Seth, wasn't it? He was going all in, which was a bit of a worry at first for Drew. But then I noticed that Drew did some cool thing. He did the kip up. That was quite cool. It just showed how well Drew can work with. I know that sounds silly. He's been in wrestling a long time, but different styles. You know, he's so agile and he does some incredible things. And then he can do the hard stuff. You know, like the Glasgow Kiss, the Claymore, and things like that. And I really enjoyed this match, especially the end. It started to drag a bit when it was all Seth. It was a bit too much for me, and it didn't seem that believable because of Drew's size and because of Drew and being the champ. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I'm not too sure about was that, and it's weird because I liked it, was the handshake thing. I thought it was very good for Drew's character, but for Seth, I feel like he's a little too far gone as a heel that he wouldn't have done that in my head. I feel like that's something Seth should be doing when this storyline is on its decline. That's when old Seth starts creeping back in, and I think it was a bit of a confusing thing as far as his character goes.
Do you think they did that as a kind of not passing the torch, but like a kind of endorsement almost? Like Seth's kind of it kind of looks good on Drew's part. He's now been endorsed by Seth, perhaps.
Maybe WWE are strange with those kind of things, aren't they? They do like that kind of thing.
Unless it's going to be like Drew's thing going forward, that like the end of each match is like, you know, he's this like baby face and he's just like, oh, you know what? Like show the respect to the opponent.
I liked it on Drew's part. I did like it for Drew. I just feel like for Seth, it didn't make sense for him to do it at this stage in Seth. Because I feel that Seth is just becoming this kind of breakaway, I'm better than everyone. Yeah, and but it's just so I feel like it was a bit weird timing for it. But yeah, I mean, as far as again the match goes, like I really enjoyed it. The ending was quite good, and yeah, I felt in front of a crowd it would have been really electric.
Definitely. What about you, Rob?
I agree. Just going back to the handshake thing, Seth, he looked quite confused after the handshake. Like, should I have done it? So I don't know if they're going to play into that and it's going to build up for something else. But the whole match, as you said, it was very one-sided for a while. But then when Drew started getting his shine and his comeback, he looked so good. You know, not that he isn't anyway, but the way he done stuff, like his presence in the ring, he was explosive when he needed to be and slowed the match down again. And it just made him look so much more dominating than I think I've ever seen him, other than against Brock, which was kind of just over and done with. But it really showed that he will work for the title rather than just have a quick match. But yeah, I'm really, really invested in McIntyre now.
Definitely.
Yeah, I felt the match was a bit too long. And again, I think it is the no crowd thing. I think because obviously with the crowd, at least you've got some energy behind it when things obviously start getting a little too one-sided. I said the other day that I'm not overly a fan of Drew as a face, but I can see why they're having to do it. It does seem potentially that obviously this feud continues, that we are going to see maybe Seth have a change it up a bit, because I think he's now lost 1, 2, kind of 3 kind of biggish matches, tag titles, Kevin Owens at Mania, and now this. But it was nice though to see Drew kind of, apart from obviously the Big Show match, I guess, which was a little bit longer, but it's the first time I think Drew's had, and Andrade, like like a couple of times we've seen him kind of be able to go kind of all out. Since he won the Rumble, I'd say, because obviously he's had to deal with, unfortunately, having his Mania build, be crowdless and this whole situation. But so it was nice to see that side of it. I think definitely towards the last 5 minutes, it did show. I know Seth Rollins is, people aren't nice to him online, to put it mildly, but he does show that he is up there, amongst the top wrestlers in the world when he comes to, right, we're going to switch this match up, because the speed, the accuracy, everything that built up in that last 5 minutes was spot on. And I know obviously, trolls will hate him a bit for it, but he's good at what he does. So, but
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, sorry. Overall, though, I prefer the Universal title match over the WWE title match. But yeah,
I was going to say, as you were saying, like the style and stuff, Seth sold so well, especially was it the German suplex when he done it from the top of the top turnbuckle?
When he was in the Tree of Woe.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
that was unbelievable.
That was amazing.
I don't think they even showed a replay of that. I literally it's rare that you watch something and you're like, oh my god, and you visibly, verbally, express how much something excited you, like in a wrestling match. And those are my favorite moments. And you usually only get them at things like Manias and stuff, but that was incredible. And I'm shocked they didn't actually show a replay of it. But yeah, and like you say, like that was when it was really building up. Those last 5 minutes were, that was, like Lucas was saying as well, Seth, like he plays that role so well. And the timing of that section was perfect.
I agree.
Indeed it was. And so on that note, that's that. And now we move into the Money in the Bank matches.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You'll figure this one.
So, are we just going to go in and go balls to the wall with this one?
Yeah.
So, we had the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Do you guys all remember who you chose for this, by the way?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I think me and just picked Ray.
Rey Mysterio, and then me and Scott said AJ Styles. But we were backwards and forwards with Alistair and AJ.
That was it, yeah.
And one note I did actually take from what Scott said is that and I can't, correct me if I'm wrong with how many reallys are on this, is really, 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 really didn't want to see Otis win.
I think that's the right amount of reallys.
Was that right?
I think you've quoted me well there. Yeah, I will not be lawyers involved, don't worry.
That's an official quote from Scott Warren, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it, yeah. Well.
So I think floor's yours, mate. What do you think?
Put him on the spot.
All right, I guess if you want, I'll touch on the winner thing. Yeah, I really, 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 really am annoyed about it. Like I said on the preview, it's nothing to do with Otis. I actually enjoy his character. I just think those two things can exist separately. But because of what you said about him potentially using it for the tag titles, now that's changed it a bit for me. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I feel like Otis already had a thing going on. So I don't know. But then there's potential for Otis and Tucker to kind of have some friction because of the briefcase anyway. Who knows where they're going to go with it. So I don't want to be too negative on Otis. Yeah, I am really it's disappointed that it was him. But it's not because of him. It's just because I think, for me, those things can exist separately, and they should. But the match itself, I don't even know how I feel about the match, to be honest. There were things I enjoyed about it, but there's things I really didn't as well. I think it's the same as the Boneyard and Bray, Firefly, whatever it was. More so the Boneyard I enjoyed, and I think the Bray one went a bit too wacky.
Yeah.
It's like, I like the movie and cinematic style at times, but it makes it seem more fake as well. That's what I don't like about it. But anyway, so I guess...
To me, it seemed a bit like a video game as well.
Oh, mate, I've got so many notes. So many notes about video games here. Because it was
literally, like the no commentary thing until like right at the end. It was literally like you're watching a cutscene on a game, and then all of a sudden, the winner of this match... where the fuck was the ring announcer? Where was he?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I hated Michael Cole announcing the winners. Like, I think you should have just had... commentary in it. Like, there were points in it where I thought, the music worked, but a lot of it was so cheesy. Starting off with the entrances, right? You had the entrances. It's awkward enough they stand there, but I can get over it, right? I was excited enough about what they were going to do in the Titan Towers. I was very excited about it, and I liked, like I said, quite a bit of it. But because of the way it was edited, Asuka was missing for about 3 seconds. Where is she? Like, instantly. Where is she? Like, calm down, girl. She let her music play. It was so obvious that it was supposed to be like, Asuka's not here. It was just too rushed because of the cuts. It was obviously they've been told Asuka's not going to come out. You've got to act surprised. Yeah. Mate, a song was playing for about 3 seconds, and then they were like, like, give her a chance. You made it so obvious something was going to happen. So straight off the bat, I was annoyed about that. But then again, I was excited about seeing, like, the mirror get smashed
Money on the roof.
The mirror gets smashed by Corbin and stuff like that, and see the old school WWF gym. Like, I loved that part of it.
Yeah, because that spot wasn't done in the Gargano Ciampa match when they were in the Performance Center.
Well, yeah, true. Little different when it's gym.
Do you think you watched that? Yeah. The one thing though, I did notice as well with the whole thing with Asuka. Why the fuck would you jump down when you actually, the whole point is to get to the roof?
Yeah, there was so much of that, but they weren't even paying attention.
You're on.
It should have been like the movie Rat Race. You ever seen Rat Race? It should have been like that. Yeah. Like, people clawing and there was a bit of that, but there's a part in a bit like where Asuka's in the lift, quite funny, doing their little dances, and then the two matches meet, and then they seem to all forget the whole point. And then Asuka gets out of the lift. Why'd you get out of the lift?
Oh, okay.
Stay in the lift. Press up. No one's looking at
you. It might be one of those lifts though where it only goes to certain floors.
Sorry,
by the way, for all of our American viewers, we mean elevator, not lift.
Elevator, yeah.
Elevator. By the way, we haven't actually. What's that? Sorry. What,
I think that was what you said about the lift. I think she got out at like the highest floor. Then there'd be like a separate lift, I guess, to go up to the top. I think she was asking for it. So I think you are correct with that.
I hope so. I hope that is the case, because otherwise it was ridiculous.
I mean, I know we've already touched on basically who we thought was going to win from the men's side of it. Just quickly for the women's side of it, I've got our picks here. So, Rob, you went for Nia Jax. Mm-hmm. Lucas, if I recall, you went for Lacey Evans.
Yeah.
With me, I went for Lacey Evans. And then I was also umming and ahhing with Shayna and Asuka. And Scott, I believe you went Shayna Baszler. You thought Shayna Baszler, but wanted Asuka.
Yeah, so I'm pleased in that sense. But
so half a mark because you wanted her to win.
Thanks,
I guess.
man.
So it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, again, because I think the Shayna thing is it kind of sets back the whole point of her losing at Mania. So I think I want the Shayna thing to happen. But
didn't even make it onto the roof.
Yeah, too. That was weird as well that they didn't all get there, and it weren't really a clear thing of why they didn't either. You know, it's just they just didn't get there.
Well, Dana's obviously going to have a file a lawsuit because she slipped on water without a wet floor sign. So
that was quite funny.
She'll be filing a lawsuit for that injury. But yeah, I found it an odd choice, Asuka, to be fair. And was it you, Rob, who said about that because Becky Lynch was going to challenge the winner of Money in the Bank that you felt it had to be a Raw woman because of that? I think it was yourself. And was it Scott? One of you two.
One of us said it, but he's right. It
doesn't.
Oh, is it Dan? So I'll take glory. But yeah, it makes sense to someone to be on the same brand as of such, you know.
And I took myself out of it as well, though. To be fair, because I thought I was like Shayna or Asuka, who's going to win it, and then I'm like, nah, I'll get Lacey Evans because I chose a Raw superstar to win the men's. I thought, they're going to have one from each brand, so I went Raw for the men's, SmackDown for the women's instead of
the matches. For me, they were topsy turvy because on the men's side of things, the Raw men. The Raw men were kind of bigger names than the SmackDown men were.
Yeah.
On the SmackDown side, it was the other way around. The Raw women were more established than the SmackDown women, and so it did feel a bit like if they were going to do one case to each brand, at least one of those people would be not as established. But it went completely the other way, as we know. As I don't think anyone would have thought Otis would have won the Bank contract. I think in a match that had Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, even King Corbin, who all have had at least somewhat exposure, you know, whether good or bad, over the past kind of 6 months. But for Otis to kind of I think it's weird because previously they've waited on things for a long time. You know, they wait until the fans should say, this person has to win. We need this person. With Otis, they've just gone, this catchphrase works, the worm works, the caterpillar works. Let's just start this push. How would a tag team cash-in work, though, as well? I mean, how would it work if they were to the tag belts? And how would they explain this whole why he's going to give up the world title if it was to happen?
Because, I mean, I heard that, and then I also heard there was another thing doing the rounds as well, that potentially he could give the briefcase to Mandy. Randomly just give it to Mandy and then be like you go and cash it in on the women's champion, and then like the rest of the women in the match are like, well, what was the point in us like competing for a women's one? But
I think it really takes away the kind of prestige in these things, and with even the way the fumble and stuff, it was just, I don't like stuff like that. I know they did the joke he couldn't climb up the ladder because it broke and stuff like that, but it just, I didn't understand. Like the ending, I think the last few minutes were probably the worst part, because although I enjoyed Alistair and Ray getting thrown off the building, that was cool. Well, thrown off the building, it was quite good. It was just the ending was a bit like, okay, so you also Asuka going up to the top, right? Corbin comes and stops her, right?
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't get.
I don't know.
Is he kind of still mates with Lacey Evans, who's now a babyface? Is that what it is? Did he think, we used to be pals, I'd rather she won? What was the point?
Because there was going to be a spot a bit later on where Elias come in and smashed him with a guitar.
But you don't need to stop Asuka.
It was pointless,
Asuka could still win, which she did.
I just wanted Asuka just to like missed him in the face or something. Just that would have been for me. That would have been a better spot with her up there, just doing like.
Like she's wild. Yeah, she just would do that.
Missed him and then boot him in the head.
Let's touch on some of the better stuff about it, I guess. Like,
all right, so let's do that. Let's go from the top. So men started out randomly in the gym, the women in the lobby.
I'm guessing because they wanted to build up to the men and women coming together later on in the canteen with Heyman. And what do we think of the cameos? I quite enjoyed them. I enjoyed seeing Brother Love for certain.
Brother Love always makes me feel uncomfortable anyway. His character does. I like Pritchard, but I don't know. I think it's the tan. But
so that was the first one, wasn't it, Brother
especially
Love?
With the grey hair.
Yeah,
it was the first one. I think the best one was.
I'm just
Vince.
glad he washed his hands after. To be fair.
Yeah, especially in this day and age.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Vince had the hand sanitizer. I thought Vince was the best one because when he broke into that room, I think it must have just been from seeing it on documentaries. I thought, it reminded me of Vince's office. And I was like, it'd be good if they go, oh, wait, that is Vince's office. And he was right there. And like, all right, it kind of goes more into the movie thing, which I said kind of is a bit risky at times and the kind of lack of realism. But I can't deny that I enjoyed it. You know, AJ and Daniel Bryan being like, that was your fault. And when they put the chairs back together, like that really made me laugh. So I really enjoyed that one. The Stephanie one, it was clearly filmed separately, and it kind of felt like
she probably filmed on her phone like a week before.
I think so, and I get that. But Dana Brooke was looking towards the door. And she wouldn't have been. There was no physical room for Stephanie to have been where she was pretending to be. And I was like, is she supposed to be on the screen? Like, what's going on here? So I didn't really like that one, and it just felt a bit too cheesy.
Yeah, and I think that briefcase, I'd have preferred that one.
Yeah, that was so cool.
It's a banging briefcase.
Yeah, that was cool.
Like, mate, I'd have been like, look, I don't care if I've won Money in the Bank. I'm going home with this. See you later.
I think if they'd have put that in of her saying, like, is this real money? If she said yes, then that would have been a way to take her out of that match and say, well, I'm taking this then. As you said, it would have been so much easier because you then whittled down the competitors to there's only a couple left. You know?
I mean, are they giving Dana like a kind of like unlucky / Klutz kind of gimmick as well? Because she had that silly moment with that, thinking she won it with that case, and Seth didn't tell her that was the thing. When she did the comical falling, slipping on water, is she doing that kind of thing? I don't know. I thought she was quite fun in that match. I guess, out of the women. And I mean, when we got to the canteen, this scene was just fantastic in my opinion. And
why was Paul Heyman having a thing?
On Rey Mysterio for no reason.
Yeah. Oh, and Shayna got him in like the head.
Like, what has Ray done to her?
Ever.
Because obviously, when they flirted with men versus women stuff in the past, like they've had obviously Corbin delivered the end of days to Becky Lynch last year, Extreme Rules. They had Ambrose in his last kind of mad few months with Nia Jax, and obviously Nia Jax in the men's Rumble last year getting RKO.
And then
but they've never
Phoenix
really, they've always been a reason for it. But Shayna Baszler attacking Rey Mysterio, I'm absolutely stumped.
Yeah, I think the only reason was Shayna. It just shows that Shayna is a bad woman, and she wants to go after your hero. That's the only way. You know what I mean? Like, it fit them two people for that. But other than that, you're right. It was just
literally no F's given.
She just went, I'm going to grab this guy. Like, what?
I know. And then he got sandwiched.
He got flattened between Nia Jax.
Nia noticed, I think Nia looked quite good in this match, actually. I thought she did quite well. And then Carmella weren't too bad either. You had the whole thing of her picture and stuff like that. And
that was good.
Strategically placed it where as she hit her when Dana's head was randomly poking at the top of of her body.
See, a lot of the stuff, like the whole pre-tape stuff, worked well. But some of it, the cuts were too quick that it just made you remember it's pre-taped. You know, some of it was...
And the music as well.
Yeah, the music was a bit weird. And the video game thing, it just... The bit when it was on the roof, in the ring, it was like SmackDown versus Raw. It was that kind of music. It was so weird. And then, again, for Michael Cole to just randomly do his weird phoned-in, recorded stuff.
Yeah, that was really awkward.
I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, that was really awkward.
I'll accept, as the bit that you said is very video game, right? I get it, but I understand why they had to do it to add the the drama and the build up for it. But what made it feel like a video game for me was Asuka won, then all of a sudden they went to the replay of her winning it, and then when they went back to the ring, no women were there.
They were gone.
I was like, well, let's get them there.
Like, I think what they could have done was, if they were going to get around it and do that kind of thing with the commentary, was one of the rooms they go in, why not have like Michael Cole sitting there watching it and then like doing the commentary over the top of it?
Yeah.
That could have worked. You know, that would have been probably something a bit
I'd have preferred for them
a bit different.
Because even on the Gargano Ciampa one, I think that could have done with commentary as well to help it not seem so long. And I think this one here as well. At times the music did create that atmosphere at times, but other times it was way too distracting. What do you guys think of like the different rooms and areas they went to? I like that ring setup they had and getting trapped in the ropes and stuff like that. Like that was pretty fun. And AJ going in and seeing the Undertaker picture, I thought that was good enough. But the room was quite interesting as well. But I felt like he had 2 chances where he could have been stopped from getting to the roof, like legit ones, like he's trapped, which happened too early. But obviously where it was in the basement, fair enough. And then you had the room where it could have been like, oh, Mystique, you know, he hasn't escaped the Undertaker in that room or whatever else, or he's locked in. But yeah, I enjoyed those areas. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought, so obviously you've got that one, the Undertaker room. It was good because it's like where he was acting all scared, and it was ironic that it was Black that kind of pushed him in the room and then closed it on him.
That was cool.
Which was quite funny. Then obviously him obviously playing a part in the Brian bit later on with Vince's office. So I think even that was kind of video game-ish, because that was like one of them things where you'd go in the office and then you've got like, they're just sitting there, he's not paying any attention. And then all of a sudden, the next thing, you just see him randomly like turn around to you.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing in here? Get out of my office, please. Thank you. Also John Laurinaitis as well. Getting
that was a weird one. I didn't expect.
Getting a pie in the face.
Pretty hard as well. It hit him pretty hard in the face. That another hard hit as well. I want to mention Carmella's spot through the table. That was quite impressive. Another one of those things that you don't need to do. It feels like when there's no audience, but it worked quite well.
There was also a really nasty kick from Aleister Black, I believe, to AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, one of the two, when they were in one of the corridors. It was a really awful kick. Like, I remember looking at it going, oh, God. I think we're definitely getting our Black and AJ feud. I can't see anything. I think they're going to go down the route, and I think we're going to go down the route of, obviously, Aleister Black is now dead, as he's been thrown off the roof, and AJ going to go down the route of, I've already faced one dead man, I can deal with you. And they're going to turn Black into a kind of really dark kind of character. Because obviously, we're most likely not going to see Undertaker until Saudi money pops up again, if that does pop up this year, as the current circumstances. And I think they need that dark, brooding presence, and I think AJ be the right person to bring that out. But it just seemed, even with that, Aleister was a person who obviously threw him and locked him in the room, and there's a lot of back and forth between them two in the match, and so that might have also factored into why neither of them actually won the match, because they're going to have a feud anyway without the contract. But yeah, the area I enjoyed the most was the canteen. The roof stuff, I felt that there wasn't enough of it in a weird way. There wasn't actually enough in-ring stuff. Because the women, I don't think even had a single ladder spot or move or anything.
Who got the roof at the women? Who else other than Asuka?
It was Asuka, Nia Jax, and Lacey Evans.
Yeah.
That was it.
Probably the 3 that you might expect to win. Oh, no, Shayna as well. Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird choice. It was weird that they didn't have all of them, or at least explain why the didn't make it. Like you say, like Dana Brooke had slipped maybe, but I'm
not being funny. I watched it this morning, so when they got up to the roof, my network told me there was still 25 minutes of the match left. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's got to the roof. Are they now gonna just like shoot it like it's just a normal match from now, kind of thing? It's like, are we going to get like 25 minutes of them going backwards and forwards with everyone? But it's like, it was just, they're on the roof, then bang. And it's like the women, I think the whole thing in total was, I think 22 minutes it finished at the women's one, and then the men's one finished at 25 minutes. So it's like 3 minutes, not Rosie and Jamal, but 3 minutes between the women's finishing and the men's finishing. It's like, okay, so, what purpose did it kind of serve, really? Like them doing all that to get up there, and then like they're on the roof for like a couple of minutes. But
I guess the selling point more was the fight through the corporate tower, and I guess there is that argument where I think you're right, the match was about 25-26 minutes, and I guess there's an argument where they could have had longer on the roof, but then you're talking about a 40-minute match, and coming off the back of Mania and having, unfortunately, Edge and Orton kind of deliver a very long, slow kind of match, they perhaps went to cut bits out. It did seem very much the roof bit in particular was very cut.
It felt like they were worried about, like you say, those other matches have got kind of a bit of a backlash for how long they were, and they kind of went a bit too cautious with this one because the ending just it whizzed past.
It was quite rushed.
Yeah,
it was quite rushed.
I don't understand why they were more cautious, because with the last one, as you said, the Gargano one and the Edge one, there was 2 people.
Yeah, this one could have done it.
More.
Exactly.
You could have done it.
And we knew, I think we all accepted that there are 2 matches going on at once. We're going to see part of this, then part of that, and then the excitement's going to be when they're together. And other than the Bray and Shane a bit, that was a bit funny because it was weird and stuff like that. There wasn't much. I kind of wanted to see the ending to have a bit more. And the only one they did it with was the Corbin thing that just doesn't make any sense to me.
See, what else confused me was Corbin broke the mirror at the beginning. So why shouldn't he have had the bad luck and had something else happen to him? He got hit by Elias, but it just didn't seem like that was enough for a broken mirror.
And he's a murderer as well.
Yeah, double
murderer.
murderer.
Two cats are murderer.
No.
He put a picture of like a ghost up on his Twitter account.
I think that's now being run by his wife, actually, because obviously it'd be funny though. Like, will they actually do on Raw, like in memory, Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio?
I mean, it's too risky. I think it's a bit too risky. Another cameo, which was a bit strange, was Doink. Even though obviously
it wasn't Doink.
Who was it?
That was Frank the Clown. If you've seen Foley's show. Foley's reality show.
Okay.
It's Frank the Clown.
I only saw it quickly, and I was like, why would they get someone else to dress up as Doink when the person who originally played Doink has died? I thought that was a bit of a weird touch because they've done stuff like that before, and I was like, why would they do that? All right, that makes a lot more sense.
But
it's Frank the
why
Clown.
was he there?
Yeah, that is weird.
He works there, doesn't he? He works there. I don't know what he does. He's one of those.
Has he ever been shown on WWE before?
Not set from Foley's show. No.
Right. So okay.
It was a bit.
You're all missing the biggest
random.
one though.
Sorry, mate. The biggest one?
I think, as I say, you're all missing out on the biggest return out.
Who's the biggest one?
Moppy.
I didn't see Moppy.
Oh, really?
Where was Moppy?
Well, when Dana Brooke fell on the floor, wasn't it? Asuka pulled it out.
Yeah, but it wasn't Moppy, was it? The other one, you touched it earlier, Dan. Elias, what did you guys think of that? Why was he there? Was he just sitting in the toilet all night or something?
I'm not a fan of it. Just for the reason being that, I don't understand why WrestleMania is not the end anymore. They had a match. Someone won. And then fair enough, they didn't. But I guess they didn't attack. But I don't understand why they're continuing it. It wasn't exactly enthralling in the first place. And Corbin, unfortunately, he can't seem to have a feud that doesn't go on for more like less than 6 months at a time. He did it with Reigns, and for pretty much half of last year, and they're getting ridiculous. And now this year is going to be Elias. And obviously all the stuff with Shane McMahon and stuff last year. It's just like, when do you decide enough's enough? Like, when do you decide that you can't, someone in the feud has to win and they move on to something else, and the person who loses moves on to another feud, and that's it. Not just continue it and just trade wins and losses and stuff. I don't know. I think it's a bit.
Good point actually about Corbin. Like, looking back on all those feuds, they all went too long, and it is like they just they don't know. It's like, Corbin's fine doing this for a bit. And they just, I think they just get stuck and just... I
like Corbin as well.
Yeah.
I do like Corbin, but I think he's just a victim of this non-stop kind of one-upmanship of not deciding who can win a feud. Just accept it. I mean, Elias won at Mania, and then he got beaten up, and then perhaps they should have done a thing. I guess they wanted to do this, but it seems to me that unless it's going to have just one more... If it has one more match, it's like maybe a cage match, I don't know what limitations they can have obviously in the PC, or street fight, and then that's it. But I get the feeling they're going to milk it all the way through the SummerSlam, even Survivor Series, with Team Corbin versus Team Elias.
It's going to be WrestleMania 37 main event.
But I mean, it was an interesting way of doing it. But for me, the weirdest part, like we said, was just Corbin interrupting the women's match. I don't think it would need. I think a better way of doing it would have been having Corbin hide on the roof, hide on the roof, waiting for other people. Whatever.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah,
or long to throw someone down the stairs or something, or trap them in a lift or something, and then have the women do their thing. Then it ends. Then Corbin's opposite. Someone gets to the roof, and Corbin will go to throw them off the roof. and then go from there. But it seemed very odd.
Yeah, you know what? That would have been good if he hid. Ray comes up, attacks him from behind, throws him off. As comes up, so every time someone comes up, they think there's no one here. It's me. I've made it here first. And every time Corbin come out and did it.
Throw them off the roof.
That would have been so good. Yeah, like maybe not for them all, but yeah, something like that would be good, man.
But then the only thing with that is then the counter argument to that would be if he got there first, why would he not have just literally put climbed up and got the briefcase?
I think though with Corbin you'll get away with it a bit because he did say he wanted to throw someone off the roof. I guess. I guess they could have done it. Yeah, I mean, I think
wasn't it the two names that they mentioned as well? Didn't someone? Was it AJ mention it on Raw or someone mentioned that it was Black?
Yeah, AJ went to throw off as a Black, didn't he? And Corbin went to throw off Daniel Bryan. So they half got it right.
Yeah.
I guess Ray had to be the victim, not Bryan.
Yeah.
I think Daniel Bryan looked like he had fun in this match. So I enjoyed it.
He didn't do much when they got to the roof. I think he was the one that did the least amount of the roof stuff anyway.
I guess he's the most protected in that match, I guess, though, because of his injuries and because of, he's got some sort of merit, I guess, to why he doesn't need to do insane stuff. But he did some stuff in the building, like especially in the gym, and the yes kicks in the kind of rope setup. So you're right. He did look like he had just had fun, and I guess that's good.
That's what I really want from Daniel Bryan these days. I just want him to be sick and have a good time. Entertain us all.
One quick question I want to throw out to all you guys. Money in the Bank 2010. The winner of that was Kane.
Yeah.
How much does Kane weigh? 325-ish?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, must be.
So then why the can Otis not climb a ladder? And he's the same weight as Kane. He's just significantly shorter.
Yeah, it looks worse, doesn't it? That's why. They could have. Remember the joke, show had the reinforced ladder and all that, didn't he? So yeah.
And no one could move it, could they? It took about an hour to set up.
Yeah. But generally speaking, I did enjoy it. I'm still kind of getting over some of the things that I feel take away from, wrestling. But I'm willing to have these kind of strange things. Like we all know that wrestlers, look at the TV from the side. We all know that a tree of woe and flips into the turnbuckle and stuff shouldn't really happen, but they do, and we can kind of suspend our disbelief. But it's just some of it just went a bit too far for me. I think it is actually the editing that kind of sets it back at times.
They just cut too quick sometimes. Yeah. They won't let it, like, if someone falls off a ladder or whatever, just like play like watching them laying on the floor for like 30 seconds or something. You don't need to, as soon as they hit the floor, bang, cut to the next shot, bang, cut to the next shot. It's strange because
obviously they wanted that manic kind of feeling of run, 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 go upstairs and all that kind of stuff. So in some ways I kind of get that they were trying to get that pacing going, but I feel like they kind of missed the boat a few times by not letting things, as you say, like linger on certain shots.
Yeah. So what did you guys make? Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think ultimately, though, it's one of those kind of matches that can forever kind of have these little Easter eggs and hidden bits and pieces. So it has got a lot of rewatch value.
I hope so, yeah.
Whereas usually, you can watch you can watch a good or a bad match again and again if you enjoy it. But you are kind of waiting for those same kind of spots. But these, it is a bit like, what poster is that? Who's on that poster? Was I at that show? So there is that kind of rewatch ability. And I guess these quick cuts, is what makes it look like a video game, I guess. And they maybe thought that as we're kind of creating entertainment and like a movie kind of thing, we want to kind of cut out the more sporty elements, I guess, of wrestling, which are obviously the heavy breathing and people lying about and, waiting for spots. They're going to cut that. But I think they were maybe a bit too,
too far, yeah.
Trigger happy.
Yeah, I mean, what happens when you look back on this stuff? Like, you're talking about, like, canon and stuff. Like, there's this... Are they going to act like some of this didn't even happen? Because when they go back to the legit kind of sport-style presentation on certain feuds, some of this stuff, I imagine they can't really reuse, apart from, how they reuse... Like, when Teddy Long's in the back of SmackDown and they're in food fights and things like that, like they did on here. That's the only way that they can only use these things within these things. Like... as far as looking back on stuff. So I feel like when you look back on, like how they did on the pre-show, the top 10 moments, it's going to be a bit weird to show it as a legit competition, I feel, this match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think WWE do a good job, though, at this kind of stuff. And I guess that's why, they did have the ring. set up still, because I know there were some people on social media saying that why they needed the ring, they could have had the briefcase kind of on top of on top of the roof, so to speak, on like a plinth or whatever, but it wouldn't seem like an actual cash in. But at least when you kind of, when they do a gallery of all the Money in the Bank winners, you'll have still Asuka and Otis at the top. Well, not Otis, sorry, Catch caught it. But you'll have Asuka at least at the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
And it will look like, if you look
Yeah,
at
they
it,
could-
if
those
we're doing this 2030, it would look like,
Yeah.
okay, she won it at least in a ring.
Yeah.
But then when you
Yeah.
watch it back, you go, oh.
Yeah, it was
what
crazy,
happened
yeah.
here?
Yeah, so just touching basically on the finish of the finish of the men's one especially. So we saw obviously at WrestleMania the whole thing where they pulled the titles down and then Morrison obviously fell through holding the belts. What did we think of this one? So essentially Corbin and AJ both like, unhooked it, and then Elias come in, smashed him with a guitar. Like AJ Styles obviously still had a bit of like crap on his gloves or something that made them all sticky or whatever, and just dropped it. And then a good catch from Otis, and so what, you now don't have to climb the briefcase to win Money in the Bank.
I guess it's as long as you have possession of it. I think they're trying to make it like sport, like it was more like the NFL where a fumble isn't a catch, so that's what it seemed like. And I think AJ actually played it very well. They've done stuff like this before where it could go wrong.
Could have gone the opposite side.
True, but AJ did it well. It looked like he didn't actually have possession of it, because I was like, no, that's rubbish, because all right, two of them, but AJ was holding it. But when you watched it back, or at least on one watch back that I saw the replay of, I was like, oh, actually, you could probably argue that AJ never really had a proper grasp on it, if this was looking at, like, ironically, in a sports way. So
it's like a goalkeeper. He's not got possession of the ball unless he's got both hands on it completely. So
I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I think the way they pulled it off was actually quite well done.
They done this. There was a ladder match, actually. I believe it was Ziggler. I want to say it was Ziggler, Morrison, and Miz. I can't remember. It was a triple threat ladder match. But anyway, they did the whole thing where the two people at the top of the ladder did the same kind of struggle. And Ziggler was at the bottom, kind of trapped. And they were fighting over the belt, to me, to you, to me, to you. It dropped down and Ziggler caught it. And it seems that they kind of, this is the rule, again, you were talking about how we're talking about wrestler, they was watching from the side and making little rules. It is a kind of rule they like to flip-flop back and forth between. And it does seem that a lot of the literature going out, a lot of the kind of commentary was you have to be the person in possession of the briefcase, not the person to retrieve it. So then it does beg the question as to why people would bother just not bring it. If you're someone like Otis who's got a tag partner, just get your tag partner to run in and to get the briefcase for you and hand it to you.
Yeah, I think they need to be a bit stricter with it, but then when they do, they know they're going to put themselves into corners, so they like being this kind of loose kind of with it, don't they? So yeah. But
I quite liked it on this occasion. But I'm biased. I think I really like Otis, I guess. But I think it was fun, and I guess this is again another advantage of obviously it being pre-recorded and no crowd. There might be takes that exist, obviously, with Otis missing. Which
yeah, true. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm all praising it. It's probably the 10th take, like.
Yeah. So obviously it is a benefit where it not being live, it helps that element to it, I guess. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. I guess it's really, really unique circumstances. I don't think we'd have thought this a week ago.
No.
Most definitely. So yeah, that's it then, I guess. Money in the Bank is wrapped up. Next event they announced is Backlash in 5 weeks' time. Apparently it's meant to be Extreme Rules.
I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not anymore. So yeah, let's do it.
So this is going to be a Backlash live from Triple H's garden, probably. So.
And you know what? Quickly, before we do wrap up, I do want to say, Asuka, if you're listening, go after Charlotte. Have your moment. Beat Charlotte. Get that NXT title. And
then Io Shirai versus Asuka.
Woof. But let's get back to, Asuka seems to be getting back to that point. And it all started on that awful, awful decision to have her lose against Charlotte at WrestleMania. But let's see.
Indeed. And now she ties Carmella as a two-time Women's Money in the Bank winner.
And the only woman to win the Royal Rumble and the Money in the Bank.
Boom. There we
That
go.
was my fact from earlier.
Hey!
Had to get it at the end.
We got there.
So there we go. So there you have it. Thank you guys for joining me for this. Thank you guys for watching, obviously. If you like what you see, check us out, rebnoise.com, YouTube, comment section down below. Just drop us a message. Let us know what you think. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Unless you guys have got anything else to say, then we'll get the hell on out of here.
No one's mentioned Rob's still got his mask on, and I'm pleased he has.
It never comes off. I'm not sure what you're talking about, to be fair.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. You're like the Undertaker. Protect that gimmick, brother.
And I think,
Of course, mate.
and I think for the last word, I think we need to just finish by quoting Vince McMahon to Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. Out!
We've got a lot more wrestling content coming this year as well, guys, so please subscribe to Rebellious Noise on YouTube, check out revnoise.com, and check out our podcast Talking Beans, where we'll be talking about the main wrestling shows as we do throughout the year.